Hi, my name's Lucy McDonald and I am part of the Malden Manorette WI. Over lockdown, we had to come a bit more creative with how we were going to run our meetings, so we decided to do online virtual meetings. Now this meant that we had to think about ideas of what we were going to do. So the members were asked if anyone had any skills, crafts, talents they'd be happy to film and share with the rest of the WI. So I put together this video of how I decorate a buttercream cake, and I hope you enjoy it.
First, and I find this quite useful, is I will do just a slight ring around where my slice is, and the reason for that is often the crummiest bit, which we want to try and get in our remove from our final finish. So go round. You'll see just how easy it is to use the turntable. I've also not left my icing to set for long enough, so it is a bit wet, but I will then use one of my handled spatulas, I call them, and I'll just run it round. So I quite like the ones with the notching, because then I can hold it and just spin it round the top of the cake. Yeah, so that is the crumb coat. So used to describe, so covering up all the crumbs, capturing them in, so you don't have the issue of sticking out crumbs when you come to do your final layer, because at this stage you might be adding colour, you might be adding decoration, and you want it all to be covered up. So yeah, I'll put it in the fridge for probably about 15 to 20 minutes. It just means that it firms up, but not too firm. Alternatively, if you're short of time, and if I had more freezer space, I'd chuck it in the freezer for 5 minutes. It really blast chills the cake and makes it really easy to work with. But yeah, so this will go in the fridge for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll take it out and do the final layer. The cake has gone slightly firmer, so if I press this now, it's almost a bit like marshmallow, which makes it a really lovely icing to work with, but as I said, it's a bit of a faff to make. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my icing layer. So a number of different ways you can do this. I personally like to just pipe it on and almost go in a circular fashion. So a bit like a tornado round the cake. This just means that when you come through the scraping, you get a nice even spread. I might finish some bits. I always like to leave a little bit in my icing bag just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. So at this stage, I can now start using my scraper. So this is a metal-sided scraper. I love it. I think they're fantastic. They make icing cake so easy. I've had acrylic ones in the past. I've had ones that have like a joining top. And this one, I can't even begin to tell you how simple it is. So, okay, so we had a few technical issues there. So the bit you missed was me moving the icing around. So what I'm doing here is I'm using my scraper to push the icing around the cake. It looks really simple, and that is because it actually is. With a scraper like this, it makes it nice and easy, and also the fact the icing is quite smooth. You'll notice as well there's no crumbs popping through the cake. That's because we did our crumb layer before. So wherever I put pressure on my scraper is where it will scrape icing from. So if I've noticed that there's a lot of icing at the top, for example, so this is really with taller cakes, I would then make sure I put my pressure towards the top.
Oh, no.
Okay, so at this stage, as I've got this out of the fridge, I've realised this cake's had a bit of an accident. So really simply, to fix it up, all you need to do, fill it in, and then come back with our metal scraper and scrape it down. Because the rest of the cake is now a different texture, because it's hardened up in the fridge, it means it just slides down round really easily, and you wouldn't even know someone had put their pudgy fingers right into it. So once we're at this stage, we can start to flatten. So what I've done is I put my palette knife, so the smaller one, into some boiling water, then wipe the water off. And then what I need to do is I can just smooth the top down. So because this is a high butter based cake, because it has lots of butter in it and it's now been sat in the fridge for a while, it means that it is quite cool. So the icing is also more malleable. So again, the cake's still a bit wonky, but it doesn't matter too much. So what I have here is I have a mixture of chocolate and butter. It's like a really thin ganache. At the moment it's a bit warm, which is great for letting it run down the side of the cake. But also because the cake is quite cool, it means it cools quite quickly. So some people do this freehand just with a spoon, but I like to do it in a squeezy bottle. So I'll put a little bit down, let it run, and just spin my table round. So if I want a longer strand, I would hold that bottle there and squeeze for longer. If I want a shorter strand, I'd put it there for less. So I just edge this all the way around the cake. If I wanted a wider section like that, I'd put the bottle further down. If I wanted a narrower section, I'd put the bottle further up. So I just do this all the way around the cake. If I go, well, actually, I'd like this one a bit longer, I put my bottle back on and I can just pop down some more icing, which makes it quite handy. Keep going round. What this is doing is it's creating a barrier. So in a moment, I'm going to flood the middle of the cake with some more ganache, but this prevents it running down willy-nilly and going a bit wild. So by gradually squeezing it out, I'm creating a really, really nice pattern around the edge. So what we have now is a drip cake. So you'll often see these out and about. Also just splattered some icing. So at this stage, what I like to do is I take the lid off, and then because this acts like a barrier, I just pour this into the middle. So roughly about that, I then use my spatula, make sure it's dry, otherwise it will react, and I just spread it out. When I get to the edge, I make sure I don't push it over, because otherwise I'll have extra lines, and I've already decided where I want those lines and what I want them to look like. So quite often I will then just put extra accessories on top. I encountered some more technical issues there, but what I've done is I've wiggled the cake out. So by shaking it, it then gets rid of any air bubbles, and we're left with a really, really clean mirror glaze. So you can almost see me in it, that's me waving. And the reason you get chocolate that shiny is because I melted the chocolate to around 37 degrees, took it off the heat, and then added cold butter slowly. And as the butter melts, it then gives it this really nice flavour. So yeah, you don't always need a squeezy bottle like this. You can just put the icing on top, put the ganache on top and let it drip. But I just prefer it because it gives a more controlled look. So that is the final product. I can then go around with a paper towel, just wipe the board off, make it nice and clean.